Hi, Tim Hart here. Welcome to this edition of Along the Forest Apps Road podcast. And I have a special guest today, Mr. Brian Bosey from B3C. And I think you're going to be kind of amazed. I met these folks back several years ago. A friend for years and years, a real old guy, Mike Hurst. He's a kind of a manufacturer's rep, covers a lot of the United States with different products and equipment and things like that with his company. And he had called me one day and said, I want to send you some stuff. So I looked at it. And then a few weeks after that, we kind of planned to run up the coast, heading up to Rhode Island. And we were kind of being chased by Hurricane Sandy, which was about 11 years ago, I guess. I dropped by and I met Brian in the group, and I think you're going to be quite impressed. So uh, welcome, Brian. Let's see if we can get you up here.
Nice to be here. This is thank you for having me on. This is really an honor.
Well, I've got some pretty, I guess you'd say, special followers. Not a whole lot of them, but we cover a lot of folks in different areas with the training and stuff. And I have since we had met, I've used, ethanol shield and diesel mechanic, a mechanic in a bottle, and even tried a couple of the your water snakes and things in my tractor and all. And I've you know when I met you guys, it was kind of like, and I know you're in a bigger building now, but I met you guys and it's kind of like a bunch of mad scientists sitting around coming up with things for outdoor power and trucking and diesel and fuels, and because all the ethanol stuff was coming in, at that time in the fuels. And you guys just come up with some super cool stuff that helps out different equipment operators and things when it comes to a lot of it trying to get rid of water or ethanol or whatever. But it's really neat the way y'all come up with stuff like that. I've always been impressed. And you've got a new product in some bar and chain oil that Mike had told me about. He sent me a sample of it, and so far I'm very impressed, very, very impressed with it. And we just want to find out some more about that when we get to it. But I'm an open book. I'm listening to what all you have. A little bit about B3C, and I know you're one of the bees.
I'm the inventor. I invent all the products. Actually, the founder, and I always focus in on fixing existing problems, and maybe a little bit different than everybody else. But there's problems, and water is the root cause of most of the problems in diesel, gas, and hydraulics. So we have more solutions for mitigating water than anyone in the world. We've actually do molecular sieves for gas, diesel, and hydraulics that remove the water on a molecular level. We also do it on a chemical level also. The problem is these new gasoline, diesel blends, even the hydraulics, they're loaded with water right out of the pump. If you look at ethanol, it's supposed to be 1,000 parts per million, and we're seeing 3 times that at the pump. Same with diesel. Every time they get a load of diesel, every time a tanker load of diesel drops off, there's about 7 gallons of water dissolved in the diesel.
Wow.
And over time, it falls to the bottom, and it becomes a huge problem. So that's what the focus is on is fixing things, and then preventing it from happening in the first place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
So
so some of your products, I know that you've had for the ethanol. Basically, that's the same thing. You're trying to keep the moisture from phase separating, 2-cycle fuel mix, and those kinds of things.
yeah, we work with a major manufacturer. Have been in actually over 20 million boxes of equipment. We
Wow.
actually an ethanol shield 2-cycle oil. Um, so we've been out there for years. We have more manufacturers that actually use our product, recommend it. We do a lot of private labeling for engine manufacturers. Uh, so we're kind of behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, but we're out there. And again, we have unique solutions that nobody else has in the world. And so I focus in on that little niche markets usually, and try to fix things.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I guess it's been, I don't know, probably 3 years ago or so that I got a sample of the barn chain oil, and it's biodegradable. I know that for
Yes.
a fact. And over the years, the major manufacturers of chainsaws, they've gotten suppliers of canola based or rapeseed based, those kinds of things, and a lot of that came from Europe. And then y'all started working on this process here. And the first I got was, it was very clear. I used it and it worked. It worked super. I mean, as far as lubricating the chain. Now you've added a little bit of color to it, it looks like, and I've used it here on this latest version, and I mean, it's amazing.
Uh, Well, this it's been a it was the start. They use water soluble lubricants. The Navy uses it extensively.
Mhm,
They're PAG, PEG lubricants, and they're super high end. And the Navy uses them because they don't want any sheen if they have a leak. So these are water soluble lubricants that are actually exceeding petroleum based. That's where I started with this.
mhm,
So we start with the water soluble, um, because I don't want to have a sheen. 1 gallon of bar and chain oil can contaminate 1 million gallons of drinking water.
mhm.
And if you really look at it, the chain is moving quite quickly, 55 to 60 miles an hour. You have probably that number better than I do.
That's
Well, that's
exact. Yeah.
about 88 feet per second. So
Mhm,
the life of the chain lubricant, if you look at a 30-inch bar, is 0.04 seconds.
mhm,
Continuously being replenished.
mhm,
So the key is to make sure it sticks. That's where the better than oil, we're calling it right now, but we're going to change it to mechanic in a bottle bar and chain, because I had to pass my test. This is my prime. It's a premier name for me, so it
mhm,
has to be the best of the best. And this latest formula, we're going to change the name to mechanic in a bottle bar and chain. You know, and the water soluble lubricants actually disperse the heat a tremendous amount better than petroleum based.
mhm,
Uh, we're like 93% better heat dissipation. Well, if you reduce the heat, you reduce the friction, we lower the friction, then you have no wear, and there's no pressure on a chain, very little, 10, 20, 30, 50 pounds max. So
mhm,
it's dispersed over the length of the chain at the bar. And that right there where the bar and the chain meet is where all your friction starts. So if we reduce that friction and just dissipate the heat better, then we're seeing dramatic reduction in temperatures. We were
mhm,
just there was a guy in West Virginia, the fire chief, was testing it out, and he was using a name brand, top name brand, and he had a heat gun because he was a fire chief, and he said he was running about 130 degrees. He switched over to the latest better than oil, and he went down to 89 degrees at the bar.
mm,
It's just a dramatic reduction. It lubricates, and remember, the life of the lubrication is less than a second because it's
mhm,
completely being replenished all the time. It ends up all on the ground. So what we have is a unique thickening agent that's thixotropic, which means it looks thick, but it actually gloms on, has surface active, and it actually gloms onto the surface. That's why it stays on the chain for that partial second, and then when it hits the ground, there's no harm because it's
mhm.
water soluble. So there's no
Oh,
you can go over pavers, you can go next to a house, you can go next to a garden. It's not going to hurt anything. It doesn't kill anything. And it doesn't stain your concrete or your pavers or your roof tile. Sometimes you have a roof and the guy's leaking. I mean,
mhm,
in fact, I had to chainsaw cut some trees down on my property here, and he set the chainsaw on the lawn, and it killed my lawn in that area because it leaked out.
mhm.
So this mitigates all those problems. And
Yeah, I I took, and just playing with stuff. I poured some out, and then a little bit of rain and that kind of stuff. It came out clear. I noticed that it has a lot of. I always do a finger test. You see the strands of the resin or whatever that makes it a tack agent. And what I've noticed is, and this is something especially out west with the longer bar stuff, is is you got the situation of everybody wants to turn their oiler up, trying to get all kinds of flow. But with this stuff, it's not that necessary. I mean, you can keep your oil flow down, and because it hangs to the bar and to the chain so well, and like you say, I think it's cutting temperatures down a good bit too. It's amazing stuff.
It really is. I mean, and every generation gets a little better because I keep tweaking it. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just like my ethanol shield and mechanic in a bottle. I started off with one formula, and then every as I learned more, I keep tweaking it more and more. More I learn about fuel, I keep trying to be ahead of the EPA because EPA keeps changing fuel. So
Hmm.
I keep changing. So I constantly are tweaking and making things better, and then testing.
Hmm. So what? Mike had mentioned something about you had some trees in this stuff. The point, I know you want to go talk about the secret formula recipe, but he said you had more or less some of the products were coming off of trees, which I know a lot of products come off of
It's
trees.
yeah, it's actually it's a residue from a pine tree. It's pine. It's so they process pine trees and they end up with this, and then they work on a lubricant from there. They
Uh-huh.
manipulate it from pine sap basically.
Uh-huh. So it's kind of recycled stuff instead of a
Yeah, but
plant.
it's
It's kind of
altered to be
recycled
a
stuff. Huh?
lubricant. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. But yeah, and it has a pleasant smell to it also. I mean, you don't really smell it out of the bottle. And the guys were saying yesterday, I was doing some training and we're using it. He said, "What's it smell?" And I said, "Well, which one?" You can kind of smell the fuel that I burn a little bit, but I said, "No, no. When you start to smell the bar, it's a bar and chain oil. It kind of gives a pleasant odor off of it as it heats.
It,
It's
it,
pretty
it,
cool."
that's the first I've heard of that, so that's interesting. That's pretty neat. I
Yeah.
mean, it's clean. It's running clean, so there's not much there
Uh-huh.
at the end. So
Yeah. That's absolutely amazing. And so, when you start to think about I was looking at some of the prices of other ones in the market too. You're a little bit lower than the actual other brands that I see out there, and I mean it does what it's supposed to do. I mean I'm kind of excited about this stuff. I mean a lot of the places I go with the training, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we're out in California, and they're kind of mandated to use the biodegradable in all their equipment. And there's another thing I wanted to ask you about was some of the hydraulic stuff. But in all their equipment, they're supposed to use some type of a bio-based. And then other cities and counties and stuff have gone to it too because they found it, different things to work in their large equipment. And so on the saws, they're going with the biodegradable also.
well, it makes sense. I mean, everything is going green, and then suddenly some of the cheap bar and chain. I'm telling you, there's cancer causing benzenes, and they use line wash. Um, I mean, God only knows on that cheap bar and chain what's in that bottle. And then they put a tackifier in it and they call it bar and chain and they sell it for really cheap. And at the end, it's probably does the job, but I mean, what at what expense to the environment? I mean, there's always a balance. That's why this has to be price competitive because I know it's bar and chain. I'm competing against line wash,
Hmm.
so it has to be priced as aggressively as I can because it's a function. Everyone sales are a function of price.
Hmm.
You can't sell something that's so over the market, no one will ever buy it.
Well, I
So we'll
haven't
put
I
it
haven't
that.
played with it too close on that aspect, but I was thinking the other day is that I want to kind of see. I think because of the way it stays on there, you can probably reduce if you were to look at a gallon of this versus a gallon of that. You can probably go a lot farther with this than the other brands.
I've never done any testing on the reduced. I do have a super lubricant that I'm working on that would you could cut the oil down 90%
Hmm.
and it'll actually do better
Hmm.
than anything else. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, just it doesn't make it's super. It's really polar oil that has high lubrication properties to it.
Hmm.
I was testing last summer, and I virtually after cutting thousands of cuts, the chain in the bar did not look like it was ever used.
Hmm.
So
Well, good sharp chain makes a big difference. I always tell the guys that, everybody talks about my bar and chain smoking. Well, metal doesn't smoke, it's burning off oil or paint or something. So that means the temperature is too high. So the oil helps to keep the temperature down and lubricates, but also if you run dull chain, the temperature goes way up real quick.
That's so true. You see pictures of when a chain starts dusting
Mhm.
the wood. It's like sharpen the chain. I mean, it's just like first thing to do is sharpen the chain. If it's not chipping and it's dusting, and you're getting really fine particles, there's a problem with the chain. Sharpen it. And that's where the training comes in. I mean, it's that simple.
Mhm. Well, where is the better than oil available? Is it you've got a lot of outlets for it?
Well, see, we have OEMs using it
Hmm.
on the battery side right now. And
Okay.
that was focused because I was reducing friction dramatically over petroleum.
Hmm.
And battery, is going to be the future for
Kind
a
of
lot
goes
of
hand in
systems.
hand with the green stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So typical petroleum oil with a tackifier, that's a good tackifier. Tackifiers actually create friction, and friction is an enemy to a battery because the life of the saw is only as good as the battery. So the more friction
Resist.
you have, and up to 17% of the power is the chain against the bar. So these formulas were made to reduce friction dramatically, so you can have a little better battery life.
Hmm.
That was the first. We are selling direct right now through distributors for the professional version.
Hmm.
So your gardeners and your rotaries and that type of the meat arts, they have it in stock.
Hmm. Hmm. And power equipment dealers and things. I mean, I know Mike kind of fills that channel up some.
Yeah,
What and so are they starting to grab and get on the boat? I mean, are
uh,
they starting to see the advantage?
yeah. It's well, we really never had all our production was taken up on some of this OEM stuff. Now we've increased our production, so now we're going after the next level.
Hmm.
The professional guys more so.
So basically, they can go to their outdoor power supplier and start to request it, and that help get it
Yes,
in. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, what is this stuff on the hydraulics? Mike had mentioned something too.
We just introduced it. I've had it out for about almost a year, and we went to Con Expo a couple weeks ago and introduced it there for the first time. And so when hydraulic oil gets milky, they call it emulsified oil, even if it's there's a shade of water in it, and it's due to heating and cooling of the day, sitting leaks,
Hmm.
pressure washers, and then we're hearing about a lot about just like putting depth fluid in the hydraulic because they don't know where to put the depths. So and so so what happens is if the oil is milky, it increases viscosity.
Hmm.
The acid number goes through the roof. It plugs your filters, increases pressures, it starts blowing hoses, and it starts pitting your pumps. And so they most people, oh wow, I got milky hydraulic oil, so they drain it out and put new oil in.
Hmm.
Well, regardless of how many times you drain it, you can't get all the secondary orifices out of a hydraulic system. There's just too much.
I mean, nooks and crannies.
Yeah, and then the oil coolers have turbulators in them, and those turbulators actually slow the water or the oil down, and you can't get it clean out of there. So you can change the oil. We were the Caterpillar here. It was changing the oil up to 7 times. Put new oil in, run it, get milky, change it. This, if you've changed the oil, you put this in, you run it, it'll clear it up, and you can keep it running at that point. Or if you depends on the tolerances of your system, you can just change it out. It removes all the water, it neutralizes the acids, it brings lubrication back. Um, so in some cases, people run it, or other cases they drain it out and put new oil in, and then it's fresh. And they put a little bit in to prevent it from happening. And
Mhm.
there's nobody has anything like this in the world. Up until now, we're seeing people from all over the world. It's like we have these problems, and you really don't talk about it. But the word of mouth on this, people were running over from Canada and West Coast and literally all over the world. It's like we haven't really even advertised,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
the problem's the problem. And I mean, we had one case where a piece of equipment went in the river. It fell in the river. They pulled it out and used hydraulic oil fix. It cleared it up. They drained it out, put oil in, and it was run like virtually the same day.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's unique. And on the website, b3cfuel.com, you can go to hydraulic oil fix and there's a video on it. And it'll show you how to do it right in front of your eyes. It's that fast. It's
Mhm.
amazing.
Mhm. And that'll work with also the biodegradable type of hydraulic oils and stuff they use
It
too.
works on any oil. It works on gear oil. It works on engine oil. It works on transmission oil. It works on all oils. So if you have water in any of the oils, neutralize it and then it de-emulsifies it. Basically, it brings it back up into solution. It takes
Mhm.
an emulsion and it actually brings it back into clear and bright,
Wow.
which
So,
nobody has been able to do up until now.
so you use that basically as repair, maintenance, and then also preventative,
Yes.
basically.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
You come up with some of the greatest things. I mean, and the thing is, it's all stuff that's applying to small engines and big engines, and it's just really neat, Brian. There's not a lot of people or places I talk to that have as much fun doing it as you guys do too. So you get out there and make it happen.
Well, I love a challenge, uh, and it's something that nobody else can do. That's when I really dig in, uh, try to fix something, and it's always fixing something. I want to fix things. I don't.
Mhm.
If we can fix things and reuse, and if we can preserve, you're actually saving the environment at that point because it's. I mean, anytime you throw gasoline away, you're wasting a precious commodity. If you throw oil away, chainsaw oil on the ground, it's all about fixing and preserving and preventing. And that's where we're at. So a
And then
little,
you've always been involved with the training too. Like you've got test kits instead of having to throw all that stuff out. You've got test kits that'll tell whether it has water or whether it has ethanol or whatever in it. Those are pretty cool too.
yeah, so we try to test, fix, and prevent. So I always have the test up front. We have a DEF test to see if your DEF is contaminated. We have diesel contamination test. We have gas contamination, and I also have a hydraulic test is to see how much water you have in it.
Mhm. Y'all are busy. Ain't no doubt about it.
Well, Tim, it's been really it's actually I could do this forever. I love figuring things out. So this is if you enjoy what you do,
Mhm.
then it's not work.
Yeah. Yeah, I know where you're coming from on that. I enjoy getting out there with all the guys. So, and you offer a great, solution to a lot of their issues. Sometimes they don't realize how all this stuff is affecting them, but they pull and they pull and they pull, or their hoses break, or they're this, that, and another, and there are solutions to it. There's people out there like you guys that are thinking about it. Well, Brian, I thank you for taking the time today, and if you come up with anything else, holler at me, man. We'll put together something,
I
and
do have some new stuff coming on the environmental side,
uh
and it's actually really neat. So maybe we'll do another one.
oh, very good, very good. I want to say thank you very much, and good sawing to you when you're out there testing that stuff. We'll
Thank
see,
you, Tim.
see
We
you, Brian.
appreciate everything.
Thanks. That's quite amazing. Check them out on their website, b3cfuel.com, and they've got a lot of neat products and things to look at. And it's thinking about solutions to different situations that you have. So, wish all of y'all good sawing. And if you have any questions, you can leave them on the comments and get to me on info@forstaps.com. But y'all have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.